Well, good morning and welcome to Staff Chat. This is episode 20. Guys, I cannot believe we are at this milestone with our staff chats for the year. It is Christmas time, as you can see by the festive hats we have and a little Christmas decorations behind us. And we are excited to be with you today to have a conversation. So today I want our topic to be this. Is there a tradition that you have had as a child growing up or something that you do with your family now, maybe even a new tradition that is meaningful to you? And what would that be? And would you share that with the group?
I'll go first. Mine's really simple, and it's not really long either. For years and years and years, my mom was an only child. So when we would do Christmas with grandma, it was just us. It was just my parents and my brother and I and my grandmother and, well, obviously my granddad too. But both of them have passed in the last handful of years. And we would always eat breakfast at their house for Christmas morning. And it's been interesting to watch my mom continue that tradition, but do it herself. So now she's become the grandmother because of my nephews. And now we all go over to grandma's house for breakfast. I don't know what it's gonna look like this year, but that has been the new kind of tradition, is to kind of continue on with the Christmas breakfast tradition, but to do it a little differently. And that has been my favorite. It's just kind of relaxed. It's easy. It's not fancy. It's just a simple kind of breakfast, but we get to kind of just kick back and enjoy each other's company and have a big breakfast together. And that's been my favorite Christmas tradition since I was a kid. And it's been fun to kind of watch the nephews get involved as well. It's good stuff.
My favorite tradition also has to do with food, but my mother always made a lime, well, we call it green jello. It's made with lime, cream cheese, and pineapple, nuts, and ginger ale. And it is just like the best thing ever. And it's not Christmas if we don't have it at our house. And now my daughter-in-law has asked for the recipe. My nieces and nephews are asking for the recipe. And my own children are also making it. So this is a tradition that my mother started many years ago. My sisters and I have carried it on, and now it is going on to the next generation, and it is just makes it a holiday. What can I tell you? Anyway, we love it.
Mine's kind of similar. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. One of my favorite things to do, and I kind of got a little slack last year, but I made a comeback this year. But so when I was young, we had one strand of lights. The same strand of lights that went up. Our house was pretty basic ranch. One strand of lights went right across the front of the house. My dad was very proud of that strand of lights. But when it was my turn to decorate, we went full Griswold. So this year I brought back the lights out. If you've seen my Facebook page, the lights on the front porch are about that tall. And I just live in a small apartment, and I have over 700 lights that could possibly go up. And my girls love it. We got a blow up penguin, and we got little Christmas trees, and we got rope lights, and we got the I like the big bulbs, not the little LED bulbs, the big bulbs, the traditional C7s. But my girls love it, and it's kind of cool too because Elena has just moved around the corner from me. So every time she comes home, she sees the lights and she gets excited, and she can see her little penguin and all that. So one of my favorite traditions is seeing all the beautiful lights that light up the town around this time of year.
One of our traditions that we started, I guess, when my kids were little, is when we decorate the tree. Now, we have some ornaments that were my great-grandmother's. They're probably 100 years old. But every ornament has a story, and we take them out one at a time, and we put them on the tree. But it doesn't happen without playing Amy Grant's Christmas album, that has the Tender Tennessee Christmas. John, I'm sure you know that one. And we have to drink either apple cider or Russian tea and have Moravian spice cookies. And so that is law. That has to happen. And we got a video from my daughter over the weekend. They went and got a Christmas tree. They were putting it up, listening to Amy Grant, eating Moravian cookies, and drinking spiced tea as well.
My tradition goes back to as far as I can remember. On Christmas morning, we were not allowed to go out to see the tree or anything that had been brought in the night until we went to my parents' room. So all the kids would wake each other up, whoever woke up earliest, and go to my parents' room and we would pile in on my parents' bed. And my mom had memorized Luke 2, 1 through 20 as a child. And so we would recite it together. She would start and lead the way. But through the years, because now we've all been doing it all along, we've all sort of memorized it. Well, when I got married, Andy came, and it was sort of like, what's going to happen? Well, we all piled up on my parents' bed, and Andy jumped in too. And then my sister got married, and her husband joined, and then we started having kids, and so then my kids started piling on. Well, a few years ago, we all were on the bed, like 12 of us, and we heard this crack. And so we all like jumped, sort of like got up. Anyway, the bed did not collapse. The parents are still sleeping in that bed, but we now sort of all just, the in-laws sort of take a knee and keep some of that weight off the bed, because we realized it was like over 2 tons or something that we were putting on that frame. But anyway, it's definitely a cherished tradition that all of our children now participate in and look forward to. So.
Like Gavin was saying, we as a family, when I was a child, we would all gather at my grandmother's house for breakfast, and then it moved over to an aunt's house. And so we were always there, and I mean, all the family was there. It was a big deal. And my grandmother's deceased now, and my mom's deceased, and dad, and several of the aunts and uncles. And so my brother decided that it was time for him to take on that role. So he hosts the big family breakfast. And I mean, it starts about 5:30 a.m. and everybody comes to the house, and we have country ham and eggs and sausage and biscuits. And I mean, it's a wonderful get together. And there's special treats with eggnog and different things like that. And Lisa and I, we left the fold in a sense, in that we don't live in town. And so we have our own children. And so we would do our special breakfast at our house, and then we would open gifts. And now our family has grown, and so we continue having breakfast on Christmas morning. And so we look forward. We're blessed that our daughter and her husband and our son and his wife, and now our 2 little grandbabies, they all live in town. So they come on Christmas morning. We have a wonderful breakfast together. And anybody that gets to the house and they're in a bad mood, seeing Dave's hat and Jim Baldwin's hat. We have a Santa hat that's at our house. And when you come to the house, if you're in a bad mood and you're not having the Christmas spirit, you have to put on the Santa hat. You wear the Santa hat till your spirit changes. And once it changes, then you take the cap off. It's a wonderful time and a cherished tradition. So even now, when we get up early Christmas morning, I call my brother and check in with him, and I'll talk with everybody on the phone that's there, and my brother will say, "The boy's on the phone. You want to speak to the boy?" So I get to talk with cousins and nieces and nephews and lots of different folks there in the house. It's a wonderful time. It's Christmas.
I'll go next. I grew up with a family of 4 boys, and so you can imagine on Sunday morning, Christmas morning, when we were little kids, we'd get BB guns and bow and arrows. I remember my first shot with my bow and arrow went through the glass window in our den. And so we wasn't rowdy, but we were 4 boys, and we had a good time. But later in life, I've had some pretty exciting Christmases at my house. And the biggest one was when this guy named John Etheridge wrote this book called Wild at Heart. And it talked about following the desires of your heart. Well, I thought that sounded pretty good. And one of my desires was for my family to have a boat, a big boat. So I presented Connie on Christmas morning, without her knowing it, a 42-foot Grand Banks trawler, this boat. Now, brand new, these boats are $800,000 or more. I got a bargain price for $50,000 for this boat. Sort of old, it's made of mahogany and nice. But the biggest surprise, well, that was a pretty big surprise to her. But the biggest surprise that her and her 2 boys, and actually Gary Harris before he got married, and we got on the boat the next day and went on a 700-mile trip on the boat down to Miami, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so we blindfolded Connie, took her to the marina and opened her eyes, and she was very excited. She could not say a word. I guess that's what it means to be excited. So that was a big Christmas memory for us. Now, I've given them boats other times during the year, but smaller boats for Christmas. It's a great time to give boats, I think.
My favorite Christmas tradition is my older brother must have been back when I was in middle school, so at least 15 or 16 years ago. He would read The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And he started reading it just because I guess he was bored one night. And it kind of developed in this tradition, and he would start usually right around this time, the first or second Sunday of Advent, and he would read a chapter about once a week, and we'd get to the final chapter by Christmas morning, and then he'd read it before we would open our presents. And over the years, it's developed into kind of a tradition with some other friends. We have some neighbors, my parents have some neighbors that are still in elementary and middle school, and so they'll all come over to hear Daniel read the best Christmas pageant ever. So it's just kind of developed into this fun little tradition that that has developed, and we're now at the point where he has all these different voices that he uses for the characters, and they're like special parts throughout the story where we'll interrupt him and say certain things and inside jokes. So it's just become a really fun tradition for our family.
Our family has a tradition. It goes back really as long as I can remember. So I know it's pushing 40 years probably or more, but it's around food as well as many of your all's. After Christmas Eve service, we always have a menu of Hickory Farms beef stick, and you can't substitute, Havarti cheese, and fresh shrimp. And the part that always stuck out to me the most is, back a long time ago, shrimp was a delicacy. I mean, you just didn't get shrimp all the time. And so, my sister and I would always make sure that we counted out the shrimp before anybody could eat and make sure that we didn't get cheated. And, now that my sister lives in Brazil, she normally can't get shrimp the way that I can, particularly since moving here to Wilmington. So I usually will take a picture of my big shrimp bowl on Christmas Eve and send it to her on Facebook or send it to her in Messenger, and just tell them that they're all mine and she gets none of them. So that's our Christmas tradition, and it's just a great thing. And Margaret, it made me think of Christmas Vacation and the green Jell-O wrapped up by Grandma. I just think,
I'll make you some, John.
When I look back on Christmas, it's amazing to me, Christmas Eve in particular, how it unfolded exactly the same way every year, from the food to the timetable to just everything. And, I never really realized what a joy and comfort that was until I saw how ingrained it was for me. But I'm, the youngest of 7 kids. We had a large family. When everybody started getting married and having kids, my mom lived in just a 2-bedroom apartment in the Bronx, and we would just all pile in, and aunts and cousins on Christmas Eve. The place was just full and teeming and packed. And it was like when 6 o'clock came, the whole world just changed. It became magical, and it was just warm and wonderful. And one of the traditions with all of these family there, if you were new to the family, if you had gotten engaged or you gotten married into the family, you had to dress up and help Santa to deliver his presents that night. And so, that was just always a really fun thing. And as a kid, you're like, why isn't, Bill here to get his present from Santa, and because you didn't really realize that until you were, much older. And so it was just a really fun time. And so, as I got married, I couldn't wait for Wes's first Christmas with my family, because he would get to be indoctrinated just like everybody else. And it was just a wonderful time. And then we would go to church at the Moravian Church gym, and the cookies are a great thing. But my least favorite Christmas tradition was, as a kid, you had to sing Morning Star, which is a Moravian hymn, and it is really, really hard for an adolescent voice to sing. And so, Christmas Eve was topped off by standing in front of the whole congregation and cracking your voice. So, but it was all good.
So I have I have two really significant traditions, and I was trying to pick one, but I've got to say both of them. I'll keep them short. One of them doesn't happen anymore, but when I was a kid, we used to, every Christmas Eve, after going to the Christmas Eve service at church, or in between, because later on we would go to multiple, we would always come home, and my mom had put a shepherd's pie in the oven. And it would be ready by the time we got home, and we would eat shepherd's pie by candlelight, remembering the shepherds keeping watch over their flocks by night. So that was a really cool tradition, one of my favorite ones from being a kid. Like I said, that one doesn't continue anymore, but one that me and my brothers have picked up from watching my parents do it is on Christmas Day. As kids, my mom specifically used to call her sisters and her parents, and it was a race as soon as the lines connected to say morning Christmas gift. Whoever said it first won. And so you tried to, collect the most morning Christmas gifts. Now, obviously, this is a flawed system, because if you wind up calling somebody the minute they answer, you don't know that they've answered, and they just shout morning Christmas gift. So it's kind of this give and take thing where it's like it has to be morning. You have to try to wait out the other person, see if they're going to call you first. My older brother, literally, he's like, I just won't call, basically. So I wind up calling and losing to him every year. Anyway, so yeah, morning Christmas gift. We do that every year. It's something that we never talked about. It's just me and my two brothers remember seeing my parents do that. And so we just started doing it once we moved out of the house. And now it just continues, and we do it to our parents as well. And they think it's hilarious that this has continued without anybody trying to make it happen.
John, I love that. Y'all, those are so great. Did everybody get to share? I have two too, and they'll be really brief. One, I've always loved Christmas ornaments, even before Jeff and I got married. But once we got married, that was something we decided to do for each other every year. He would get me an ornament, I would get him an ornament. And, some years they were really nice, and other years funds were not as plentiful, and they were homemade or hand painted, and some of those are my favorite to pull out and put on the tree. And we continued that when Cutter was born, and this year particularly pulling out my ornaments, looking at all of his ornaments that may become his next year with his own family and tree, just was really a sentimental thing. A couple of years ago, I love the movie The Holiday. It's one of those things that we always watch when we're decorating the tree, and they have a thing in there called Christmas fettuccine that they do on Christmas Eve. And so Jeff and Cutter and I established a new tradition about 5 years ago of having Christmas fettuccine on Christmas Eve after our Christmas Eve service. And so that's been really fun and special to do together. But y'all love this. Tradition is so important, isn't it? It's important because it connects us, and it's just a good thing. And so I appreciate everybody sharing your Christmas traditions today. And if you are watching this video and you have a special tradition that you would like to share, we'd love for you to do that in the comments below so we can see some of your traditions too. All right, friends, everybody say bye. Everybody say bye.